Today, we are going to be continuing our conversation around mental health's impact on our personal finance journey. And we are joined by special guest Alston Feggins to be able to do so. So, Alston is your wellness bestie and ex people pleaser. She used to prioritize everyone else's needs over her own, leaving her mentally exhausted and emotionally in shambles. She's taken the lessons from her journey to empower millennials to ditch people pleasing, prioritize self care and wellness so they can thrive from the inside out. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us for this
Thank
episode,
you.
Alston.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. So, the topic that we're going to be discussing today is people pleasing. This episode is affectionately called "People Pleasers Anonymous." Alston, you're a great person to be able to talk to a little bit about this. So,
Mhm.
before we even really get into the conversation, for people who may not be entirely sure, what is people pleasing and where does it stem from?
Sure, absolutely. So, people pleasing essentially is a codependency trauma response. It's typically an environment where love is conditional, and you sort of feel like everyone kind of knows about the fight or flight response. But there's actually four parts: there's fight, flight, there's freeze, and then there's fawn. So fawn is when you're people pleasing in the sense that you rather appease the person causing chaos or trauma in that environment. So you just sort of lean in and you try to just fix the problem. You just try to be the person that they need you to be in that moment so that you can just survive. So it's a very like a survival tactic that typically stems from childhood. So for myself, I came from a divorced parent household. My father was he lived in another state, so I would visit him on holidays and breaks and things like that. And his I think it definitely stems from his own childhood of like his mom committed suicide and his dad had him later in life, so he had to raise himself. And I think from that he didn't know how to love people, and he sort of taught my sister and I to love is conditional. You have to do something or be something
Mm.
to receive love. And so in that environment, you're always in competition with the other person in the room for his love and affection. And he sort of created that environment where you were made to perform in a certain way or a certain look or whatever to receive his love and affection, which is like there's no harm in that mentality. It's more harmful for the child later in life because now you're currently sitting on a therapist's couch wondering why you can't be in committed relationships. Why do you feel like you gaslight people? Why do you feel like you always feel like you're the victim in everything, or you always blame people for certain things, or you don't understand why your self-esteem is so low and you don't feel like you're good enough and that you're made to be perfect. So like people pleasing sort of stems out into a lot larger like self-esteem issue, but also just goes into how are you perceived by other people, and you care way too much about how people look at you, how people think about you, like what you say. You're super self-critical. Like you are sort of that like perfectionist type person is not real, but like you know that logically, but like emotionally you still crave that sense of belonging and wanting to be loved at all times because you were not safe to be loved in your childhood. Like you didn't, I guess you just essentially weren't able to have feel safe and also have your love be validated.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay. That was wow. I learned something new because yes, you're like everybody knows flight or fight, but you don't know like fawn and freeze. And I learned I think I recently very recently learned about freeze, and it talked about people during 9/11 and how some, kind of like stood around and waited for the elevators versus like trying to do everything possible to get out, and the elevators was not the best course of
Mm-hmm.
action, but like it's a psychological like it's an actual like, natural response to kind of just like freeze. And that's so interesting. So I definitely didn't know there was a fourth one. So that was cool. Thank you so much for providing that knowledge and that background. So how then can people pleasing, so I know it can sort of stem from childhood, how can that then start to show up in your 20s as we are learning to adult and we have more responsibilities and we're in new situations? How can this start to show up, and maybe wreak a little havoc in our lives?
Yeah, so like as an adult, typically if you weren't given the proper tools growing up, it sort of manifests in your adult life. You find out, in people pleasing, it's always like you're not feeling validated, like your emotions aren't validated. So you start seeking that in your adult relationships. And it could be romantically, could be in your relation, like in your friendships, could be in your job life, and it definitely shows up financially. So I guess to start with, like in personal relationships, like romantic partners, things like that, you sort of you're either the self sabotager in your relationship. So if something's not going wrong, you sort of create all these obstacles and all these challenges. I have definitely had friends who were they were sort of create trials for their partner to walk through to see how they would react.
Ooh,
Um, and that's definitely a thing. Or
okay,
you're
relatable.
always you're always like you're the person who either sort of plays the victim card, like as your first line of defense. So if someone comes and says, "Hey, I don't like your shirt," you're always like, "But this is my favorite shirt. Like, what do you mean?" Like you're super like combative. You're very defensive, because it's not that they're coming to attack you, but you feel like you're being attacked. So you're sort of like walking on eggshells all the time. You you're sort of gauging people's mood swings and behaviors, and you sort of try to self correct by being a certain way or acting a certain way that you've seen work in the past. Um, so that's typically how it works in relationships. In friendships, it's not much different except for the fact that you may create relationships that are not they have no like real substantial like value to you. Like you might be friends with you might chase a group of people because they have a great status or a job or like something in your life that you currently don't have, and you're trying to get that but not necessarily work on yourself to do that. You want to sort of like tap into a new environment to achieve that status. So typically in that environment, you're probably, buying the latest shoes and styles, and, you're trying to look more impressive than you are. You sort of maybe inflate your resume or like inflate your own accomplishments or experiences so that you can fit better into that crowd. Um, and sometimes it's like, sometimes it just happens. Like you're like, you just want to be impressive. I mean, it's completely normal. But it goes to the extent of like the extremes of like how much of your life are you faking to be with this crowd of people, to be liked, to be like, to feel that belonging with them because you feel like those are my people. They need to understand me. So I need to speak their language. I need to look how they look. I need to travel how they travel. So they're definitely the people on Instagram sort of like living this high life, even though they're broke. They're going, which goes into finances. Like you have sky high credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you live above your means. Maybe you're posting all the time of your exotic trips and your purchases and this whole lifestyle that is completely not real, but you are just swiping your card left and right and you're not looking at the bills. Like even in my own credit card, debt journey, like there was definitely a time like I will say I am an impulse shopper. I'm trying to be a reformed impulse shopper. And there was a lot of times that I never looked at my credit card statement. Like they would get sent in the mail or I actually get them electronically. They would tell me I got an email, here's a statement. I'm like, I'm not looking at that. Like now, I have friends who they literally just swipe and they're like, I need they sort of create a day, a whole moment around looking at their credit card statement because they're like, I know I had a big trip last month, or oh, I know I did this last month. Like it's not gonna be a great day because the credit card bill came in, and I don't want to look at it. So they just kind of like they're like peeping their eyes, like oh, that's like a one, two, oh, okay, it's only a few grand. That's not bad. That's not bad. It's very
Not bad.
interesting. Not bad. Like how people compare credit card debt is I have a lot of friends who are like older millennials, and their frame of reference of credit card debt really is like, I'm going to be in debt to the day I die. So why does it matter when I pay it off? If I pay it off, like, it's just like, that's just their
Ooh.
life. They're just used to that mentality and that lifestyle. The lack of money mindset can definitely transcend into your everyday tendencies. So yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% facts. Thank you for that. That I agree 100%. And that's an interesting like point that you bring up, because I feel like student loans are a little different, but like I feel like, yeah, people are like, with some debt, there's like definitely a mentality out there of like, oh, like why does it matter? It's such a large amount. Like why should I worry about it if it's just going to, like, if I'm just going to have it anyway? But um this is going to be a plug for going to listen to the good debt versus bad debt episode that I did in season 1. We talked about the different types of debt, and also talked about the forgiveness around certain types of debt. So things like credit cards, a mortgage, an auto loan, those things, when you pass away, don't get forgiven. But things like student loans, for example, well, depending on what type, whether you have private or federal, get forgiven. So that liability is going to fall on, if not you, somebody else. But this is not what this episode is about. So go check out that episode. Anyway, back to our conversation. Now, I really appreciate that. So that's a really good point, that you bring up, like, especially like with social media nowadays, like you can really, I feel like people can really fall into the trap with people pleasing for sure, because I mean, social media is what you make it. Like that is,
Mm-hmm.
you get to show the things that you want to show, and you like hide the things that that you
Mm-hmm.
want to keep hidden. And so like I think, yeah, you're 100% right. People can be living these lifestyles when they're like, having eat crackers, guilty probably, for for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, because like I have a hefty credit card bill that I have to pay down. Also totally can relate to the impulse shopping too, because same, especially with Amazon. Ugh, I hate Amazon, had to get rid of it.
That's good. The first step is to acknowledge you have a problem.
Yes, yes, 100%, 100%. So the next question I have for you is, well, we didn't mention it at the beginning. Definitely gonna have space at the end for Austin to talk a little bit to us about her business, because she is a business owner. She's an entrepreneur. So how can people pleasing, or how has it maybe negatively impacted your journey in particular, with business and entrepreneurship?
Okay, absolutely. The journey of entrepreneurship is not for the weak. And it's definitely, I
Facts.
think, I think on social media you hear all these videos of like how to make money online, how to make fast money. I made like $20,000 in a day by off the 2 hours of work. And the one thing about social media is that it sort of gives you the highlight reel. It gives you, it's either, you're either seeing somebody in their struggle victory story of like they're, brick by brick building their mansion, versus somebody who's already arrived.
Mm.
And sometimes, like in my journey of entrepreneurship, like it really actually started in 2020, March 2020, actually. That's when I got my business started. I'm actually in the social selling space and network marketing. So I have a partner with a health and wellness company. And I personally got started in entrepreneurship because I was like, oh, I need like a nice little hobby. That'd be nice. Money on the side would be great. I mean, I was still working my corporate job as I am today, but I knew, looking at my parents' generation, like, they're very, very successful in their careers. However, they're looking to get off that bucket, like that rack. Like they made it to the top of the chain, and now they're looking for an exit strategy. And I'm at the bottom of the chain, and it's like at that time it wasn't as talked about getting an exit strategy. Most people were like, go get a master's degree and a PhD and like more
Mhm.
education.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of opinions about the education system, but I will say the education system in America is built to create more employees, because it teaches you
Yes.
not how to think, how to follow rules, to
Mhm.
respect the people, like your elders, but like the people in the room, not because they're more experienced, but because they're older than you, because they have more knowledge about a topic than you do. So you need to learn from them and learn from a textbook that was written by superiors or experts in that space to teach you what you need to do for a test to then regurgitate later. So entrepreneurship was a great escape for my creativity, because I had all this untapped creativity, things. I was like 9 months into my job and I was bored. I'm just gonna say that I was that typical type A, needs to plan everything, was involved in everything, president of so many clubs, so many associations. I had meetings, board meetings. I was just very involved in college and high school, and I did a lot of volunteering. And as soon as you get into a job, that all kind of like stops because in school you're in a built-in community. You can make friends super easily because you're going to class, you're going to school, you're just around people all the time. So you sort of have your own little ecosystem. Out in the real world, in the job force, it can be like that. Yes, you can make friends with your coworkers and the people in your building, but like that wasn't my story. Like I moved to a new area.
Retweet.
I moved to a new area. I didn't know anybody. I actually lived with my sister for 3 months, and she had gone to school out in this area, and then she like took a job in Boston, so I got a roommate. So I literally had no safety net, and I thought I could just do what I did in college to make a living and a job and everything. And you find out real fast that the job world is really black and white. There's not much gray. Mm-hmm. And if you fall into the gray, it can go one or two ways. It can be great. You can be the golden person, the go-to person. You're in everyone's pocket. Or you're just sort of the pariah. Like, you pick your battles. In the corporate structure, for me, I just didn't find my people. I didn't find my posse. I didn't find people who thought my jokes were funny. Because I thought I was funny. Apparently I'm not funny. I guess I'm just not professional. I don't know. But entrepreneurship to me was the escape of just being myself and creating an income from my talents and abilities that could just be duplicatable. So that was just what I wanted. Like I wanted a system to plug into and sort of learn what I needed to learn, but then be able to get my own creativity flair into how I wanted to build my business. Because at the end of the day, even in social selling space, yes, we all have the same business model, same products and things like that, but how people build their business is completely separate. Like, how somebody, like I build a business on social media and in person, some people do like parties and events and things like that. And I'm like, more power to you. I was never the party person. Like, I'm not going to be hosting any parties too. Maybe it's unless it's tacos, margaritas, I don't know. But I just wanted my business to be more personable. And people pleasing really comes into that because in the entrepreneurship journey, you find out real fast that you are your own boss. And you find out if you're a good employee or you're a bad employee. Mm-hmm. And when you cut yourself so much slack, you're like, oh, you got time. Oh, like I'm a major procrastinator. And that does not help you in entrepreneurship. You find out real fast, you delaying doing the work is delaying the results that you want to achieve. And as an employee, you can still get a paycheck. But as an entrepreneurship, you're not getting paid unless you're doing the work. And the work consistently long enough for those results to start showing up. Mm-hmm. And people pleasing really came into effect of like, I have coaches, I have mentors, and I realized that I was trying to emulate what I saw was being applauded. But sort of like what very similar in social media, you see what's being applauded, so you start doing that. But then you get frustrated about 2-3 weeks later because you're like, I'm not getting their results. I'm not on stage making $20,000. What do you mean? Right. I'm doing the same work, but you don't know their backstory. You don't know the person who's posting, I made $60,000 today. Actually took 10 years to be an overnight success for them to say that.
Facts.
Because they don't show their story when they're making, claims on the internet about income and things like that and lifestyle. You're not seeing their day one because you're on day one when they're on day 100 and they're posting about day 100. It's amazing. Look at me. But you're on day one. You're like, if I do what they do, I can get what they want. Yes. But your journey is different. And I feel like that was sort of what I had to really embrace, was that everyone's journey in entrepreneurship is vastly different. Everyone has different tools. Everyone different mentors and coaches. Everyone has starts at a different place in their life. Other people have different family circumstances, being married, kids, single parent, things like that. Or just like your network. Like who are you associated with? Like what was your sphere of influence? Like that all comes into entrepreneurship, in the sense that like, yes, everyone starts with like $0 in their bank when they get started in business. Yes. And the business is completely simple and very achievable. However, what you do with what you have matters more than anything. So that would be my biggest advice for people pleasers going into entrepreneurship is you have to first do the inner work first. You need to check your self-image at the door. You need to improve your self-image. You need to think about your mindset. Because I think when you come in from an employee mindset, you think of everything needs to be immediate, fast. I want it now. I mean, I did 2 weeks of work. I should be getting paid. Like, that's not the mentality of entrepreneurship. You're the person grinding late at night. You're the person doing all the things to move your business forward because you're your own business owner. No one's going to fire you. No one's going to be like, hey, Alston, it's your last day. No, no, no. You can only fire yourself, and you can only be mad at yourself. So your self image really comes into play in people pleasing because most likely your self image isn't, it's just trash. Let's just be real. Like, you don't think highly of yourself. Like, the reason why you appease to other people in your environment or in other social groups is because you don't believe within yourself that you're good enough, that you're loved, that you're cherished. And if you're like, the biggest voice in your brain is you talk to yourself more than literally anybody. And I was actually reading The Magic of Thinking Big. I forgot who it was by, but Google it. And in the book, it literally talks about, in chapter 2, it talks about like all about self-image and how the fact that you wake up every day with like over 80,000 thoughts, and like most of them, if not all of them, are all negative. So if you want to be a more positive, optimistic person about your business, about your life, you have to speak that over yourself and speak that into what you want it to be. But also, you need to pour in positive. You need to change your friend group. Because if your friend group's always talking about their problems, their issues, they're complaining all the time, you are literally the sum of average of your 5 best friends. And in terms of relationships, financially, in like success, like everything. So if you want to achieve the top tiers of your business or just in life, you need to associate with those people. What are those people doing? They read. You find out real fast the average person's actually very stupid because they stop reading after school. Literally, as soon as they graduate, they stop reading. Or, but like in the sense of, I don't, the book talker's coming at me, but like the nonfiction, like self-help books. Yes, they get a bad rap. So there's like 1,000 of them. However, the reason why the millionaires walk around with all these big mindsets is because they read books. The only difference between a multimillionaire and a dictator is how they think. Because from probably like the neck down, you're probably worth like $10, but your neck up, you're worth an infinite amount of money, because it's how you think that can change your actions, that can change your results in life.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that. I love that. All right. So since we're talking business, Alston, you are our wellness bestie. So can you tell us, what role does wellness play in our people pleasing healing journey?
So wellness is actually a very big part. So like on my road of people pleasing recovery, I first had to look internally. And sometimes, yes, self-image is a very big play. How you think about yourself is a very big play. But
Mhm.
also just like what you're feeding your body. So like nutrition became a very big part of my wellness journey, in the sense that I realized that because I felt so terrible all the time, I would overcompensate, by the sense that I'm like, some people are stress eaters. I'm a stress not eater. So when I'm in high stress situations, or I'm just like mentally just like, I'm just laser focused on something, I'm not thinking about eating. So I ran off of, like, for like probably like 5 plus years, I went off of caffeine, like coffee and energy drinks, and probably snacks. I had
Mhm.
snacks galore. Of course, your snacks are never like healthy, because I'm not picking up an apple on the way out the door. I'm picking
Right.
up like chips or whatever, or like candy off the, like from a gas station or something like that. Like, I would just be in my sweet tooth era, because I love sweets. It's amazing. Um, but I realized that, yes, I like, the nutrition had to change, and I'm not saying you need to be on a restrictive diet. I mean, I realized I just started just switching out things that I generally liked. I love pasta. You can cook a pasta dish real fast. And so I just switched out the pasta I was using. So instead of using like regular wheat or like whole wheat, I changed it out for like quinoa or chickpea, or red lentil is a really good one.
Ooh.
So I sort of just switched out like what I was eating, just like very small substitutes. And I thought they tasted disgusting until you just put enough sauce on it. You don't know. You can't taste the difference. You can't tell. Um,
Okay. Okay.
and then energy drinks. I actually, because I partner with a health and wellness brand, their biggest number one product is supplements. And I was definitely a supplement hater. I was like, those things don't work. What are you talking about? However, I wasn't like I was eating fruits and vegetables every day. I think the biggest thing I always get from a lot of my clients is like, oh, I'd rather just eat it. I'm like, well, do you? Are you eating your 3 or 4 cups of vegetables every day? And they're like, that's true that. True that.
Yeah, never for me, never.
So I'm not like, supplements are never there to diagnose or treat anything. However, they're there to supplement your diet. So if you're not currently eating the things that you're supposed to be eating on a daily basis, I would choose supplement and then, add it along the way. So for me, I just started with a multivitamin. I take, we call it, it's like double X. Essentially it's has like 22, like plant, nutrients, like your fruits, veggies, all the things. It has like your 12 essential, vitamins and then 10 essential minerals. And that was like 3 pills a day. Technically the dose is 2 packs a day, but I'm still on the one a day. But like for me, it changed everything. As soon as getting on multivitamin literally changed the game because I became more alert. I became more energized. I didn't need coffee or like snacks or whatever. I just felt more alert and to be able to do the things I needed to do. But I also wasn't like, I think that before taking supplements, I never knew when I was hungry. I feel like I never listened to my body. Like, I don't know if it was like yelling at me, my stomach would growl, and I'll be like, oh, I guess you're hungry now. Like, it's been like 16 hours. I was wondering when you were going to let me know. And I realized that your body response should not, like, your body gives you an outward response after you've been ignoring it for a long time. So your stomach growling is a good sign. However, that means you've been past many meals for it to then be like, hey, we need to signal to her, hey, outwardly that we need to get fed. That's like sort of like the last line of defense before, it start, then you start like using your body fat and things like that. And that would be great, but that's like days of not eating before your body fat ever gets used as the energy source.
Oh.
They actually go to your muscles first.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, so it will burn through your muscles for energy before it ever gets to the fat. So that's why a lot of like keto diets and things like that are always focused on low fats and high in protein and low in carbs, because that will be like the first use of like energy source. Like carbs and fats are always like the first use of energy. But like when you're using your stored energy, like the fat already on your body, that's the last to go. So you'll always build more muscle before you actually have fat being lost. So, pro tip.
Wow. Okay. That was cool. I love that fact. So, as our wellness bestie, how can you help us with our wellness? What This is a segue for what is your business? Can you tell us a little bit about what your entrepreneurship journey is, what the business is? I know, we know that you're impacting, other ex people pleasers or trying to be ex people pleasers, but tell us a little bit about how you're doing that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in the social selling, network marketing space. So I actually partner with the Amway Corporation. So I've been in business for about 4 years. And for me, my mission is really just to help people feel better from the inside out. And that really starts with your nutrition, and it really starts with your supplements. And, we have supplements from like, chewables to like, vitamins, like the ones you're like pill form and things like that. And for me, it was just a change of just how a supplement changed my life and how I went from someone who barely ate, always looking for the external energy, to now I just can live my life by taking supplement. And I eat more food. I eat more meals. I actually have real meals. And I actually enjoy cooking now, which is really weird. Because that was never the case before. And I just see the better, like my skin is more clear. Like somebody told me that like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Like
Okay, skin.
literally, the only thing that changed was I took supplements. I guess I drank more water, maybe like every now and again. Now it was more of a conscious thought of drinking water. But yeah, better skincare. So we like specialize in supplements, but also in skincare, and then also like sports nutrition. So, your pre-workout, post-workout, your muscle multiplier, all the things to get you fit and tight in the gym for this summer body. It's coming in. Everyone doesn't realize that to get the summer body, you need to be working out in the winter.
Facts. Facts.
Right now. So that's really just about me and like the content I typically post on my TikTok and Instagram, you can actually find me at Alston Feggins, is really just empowering content about people pleasing, like what it is, like how it can change your life, and how people pleasing can be used as a strength and not a weakness, and how you can just change your mindset by one book at a time, one new fresh thought at a time. And it's really about like empowering you to just be your own cheerleader instead of someone else being that cheerleader.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. So, as we wrap up here, the final question I have for you is, what is one thing that you know now that if you could go back, you would implement sooner?
Oh, that's a good one. I think what I know now is to be more present in the moment. I think when you're like a people pleaser, you're always sort of chasing the next high, the next person, the next opportunity, the next whatever. And you're always never present in your current moment because most likely, like for me, I was just like mentally chaotic. Like I hated being alone with my own thoughts. Like there were so many thoughts always all the time. Like I was always go, 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 next, next, next. And I think what I know now is to just learn to just accept who you are, accept that just because you said something yesterday, you can't change it. Yesterday's gone. It's gone. You can't do anything about that. And instead of beating yourself up about it for the next 2, 3 week on end, just accept that, hey, like all you can do is go back and apologize to that person and be like, hey, I was not in the right frame of mind and when I said that to you. But all you can do is just be the better person to yourself. I think that was the biggest thing in my people journey was I was always taught at a young age of like, be the better person, Alston, do right all the time. And sometimes that creates that self internal pressure to just be perfect. And perfection isn't real. But just like I wish I could tell myself, hey, I love you right where you are. You are loved all day, every day. And I I want you to just say that to yourself, that you are enough, that you are powerful, that you are loved. And just like the power of positive affirmations really works. I know you think it's a hoax, but why don't you try it out for 3 days and see if you feel better? Because that will change your life more exponentially than you chasing out what you said yesterday or 3 weeks ago, because you can't change that. But you can change what your future looks like by what you say today.
Yes, 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 yes. On that beautiful note, thank you so much, Alston, for joining us. That was amazing. So, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to drop the links to your socials in the show notes. So, if you want to connect with Alston, you can do so. I'm sure that you've probably already done so by the time we've gotten to this point in the podcast, and she gave out her handle earlier, but just in case, there's a way for you to do so. So thank you guys for listening. And thanks again, Alston, for joining us.
Thank you.